Welcome to episode 50 of the Walleye Chronicles. This week we get to talk Detroit River walleyes. That's right, our first Detroit guest. Welcome everybody, Marc Van Wormer. Hi, and welcome to another episode of Walleye Chronicles, where I get you guys off the street and we sit down and talk fishing. So I tracked this gentleman down off of the wonderful social media world. He posts all kinds of great big walleyes coming from the Detroit area. Mr. Marc Van Wormer, how you doing today?
Good. Doing really good.
Awesome. So, like I said, it tracked you down. You post all kinds of big fish. Where are you located?
I'm located on Saginaw Bay, so it'd be Michigan. I fish Detroit a lot. That's not my main spot, but I fish a lot of tournaments out of there. But no, I fish Saginaw Bay. That's where I grew up at, so I kind of stick around. I fish the Michigan Walleye Tour, so I kind of go wherever they take us.
Right. So a little background, where'd you grow up? Is that where you grew up too as well?
Yeah, I grew up in Bay City, right on the Colquhoun River. That's all I did growing up. Started fishing, man, I was a little kid on the ice, and I mean, that's all I ever did. I played no sports. In high school, nothing. It was fishing or nothing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So were you out with your boys, your parents, or kind of what were you?
Yeah.
How was that?
My dad mostly worked a lot, but mostly my mom took me out because we lived right on the river. So, and then my grandpa had a place, and I just would get off the bus and I'd fish. That's all I did. And
right on the river.
Yeah, right on the Colquhoun River. So I'd fish before I went to school. I'd fish after school, but that's what I lived to do. So.
What was in there? What were you chasing back those times?
Mostly perch and walleye. I mean, when I was a kid, I got pictures of me holding huge carp. I mean, it didn't matter. When you're a kid, nothing matters. Just catch some fish and. But yeah, no, it was just whatever I could catch. I did a lot of pike fishing because those were a lot. There was a lot of big 30-inchers on that river. But I mean, and then I had big plans on really doing a lot of fishing, and then, family, got married at a young age, and just so I had to postpone a lot of my dreams, till after.
Right.
But yeah, no, that's all I really did is fish. And my wife fishes with me a lot, and growing up, and we went to 4-H together, so we knew each other 9 years.
Awesome. So do you have a group of friends that you guys all kind of fish with when you're kids, or?
Yeah, I had, over the years, I've met a lot of new people, and I still have a few good close friends that I fish with today that I went to high school with.
Awesome.
But life's changed and stuff happens, and so but yeah, no, I still have a lot of friends. I meet every year on the tour. I meet tons of new guys to fish with, and I'll take anybody fishing. It don't matter. I'm the kind of guy. I meet you on the street and I'll take you fishing. So I met Joe on TikTok. I took him fishing. So I'm just kind of a guy that likes to go out and have fun and catch fish, And then,
yeah, it seems like that's kind of the fishing community.
Yeah. Like I'll meet people at campgrounds and I'll take them on my boat. I don't care. I'm not that guy that's, just kind of sticks by himself. I'll talk to anybody and I'll go fishing with anybody.
That's awesome.
You can always learn something.
Right? That is true.
On the bank, I've took people on the banks before, and they've taught me a few tricks, that I didn't know.
Right.
Yeah,
that's pretty crazy. Everybody has their own different perspective on things, and the more perspectives you get, it seems like the better off you'll be fishing, and just better off as a person too, right?
Yeah. I like to talk, so I talk to a lot of people, but if they want to go fishing and I got room, hop on. I don't care. I only have a couple rules on my boat: no drinking and no smoking when we're out fishing. So, but other than that, let it fly. So
those are pretty good rules to have when you're out fishing.
Yeah, because I like to have a few beers here and there, but when I'm out fishing, I ain't got time to be drinking beer.
Right.
And then cigarettes don't go good with boats. So I don't, well, no smoking at all, no matter what time it is. But
I just love the people that have like the whole grill setups in the back of their boats. And that's kind of where the gas is, they're back by the engine.
Yeah.
Like, that's weird.
It took me 40 years to buy a really nice boat. I mean, I bought a new Ranger, and I have to pay for that boat. So, I try to keep it as nice as possible. And, I go to work every day. That's the problem with fishing a lot of these tournaments is I'm fishing against guys that have time, endless time off. And then here comes a guy that was working 60 hours a week, and I'm fishing a big tournament, So, I mean, but I've learned a lot. This is my 5th year fishing tournaments. So I've learned a lot other than just fishing, because the first year and a half that I started the tour, I never cashed a single paycheck, not once. So, and I knew a lot about fishing, but then here we go, we're fishing against 150 teams, the best in the state, and I'm not even cashing a check. It's like, wow, do I really know what I know? And then after a year and a half of fishing 5-6 big tournaments a year, you don't see any of them top guys that are winning all these tournaments. And I'm like, where are these guys at? What are they doing that I'm not doing? And the first time it happened was in Lake Erie. We were fishing a tournament, big tournament, and I haven't seen a single boat that was in the top 10 all week. And I'm like, man, these guys, where are they going? Because nobody talks.
Right.
They won't share nothing with you.
Yeah.
So we decided to make a monster run on day 2 because we had nothing to lose. We had a 20-pound bag on day 1. It's like, what are you going to do with that on Lake Erie? Right. So we made a monster run, and we found some fish prior that week, but we never stopped and checked them just because we didn't think they were the right ones. Right. Well, we made this monster run on day 2, and we were the first to leave the launch. So we made this huge run, got there, started fishing. Next thing you know, the top 10's 50 feet from us. And I'm like, and we're catching 8-9 pounders. And I'm like, so that's when I learned that. And, we cashed a really nice check that day on day 2. That was our first check, and it's just like, and now it seems like every tournament, the last 10 or 15 tournaments I fished, I'm within 50 feet of the top, first, second, third place. So it's a lot of luck.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah, it's crazy when you first get in. You think, I almost feel like you have to have that first year of just getting beat up a little bit to understand. Because it was the same for me where I started off and I'm like, I thought I was going to be, I could catch fish and go on the weekends and catch fish all the time with my friends and catch nice bags and compare to the tournament. Like, the tournament they won was 30 pounds. We had 40 pounds of boat. We could beat these guys. Yeah. And then you jump into the tournaments and it's a whole different
yeah. I mean, and anybody can do it. It don't matter what kind of boat you got. Like when we were in Detroit, I met these younger guys that they had a 16-foot tiller with a 40-horse on it. Yeah. And they were staying at our hotel, and nobody was talking to them, and I had a sticker on their boat. I'm like, I'll talk to them. So I went over and started talking to them, and it was their first tournament, and they're fishing against all these guys with $150,000 boats. And I said to them, I knew it was going to be tough that week because it was mud, And I told these 2 young guys, I said, go out tomorrow and catch 5 fish. I don't care how you catch them. Bring in 5 fish tomorrow. That's all you got to worry about. I don't care if they're 16 inchers. Yep. So they went and did that on day 1, and they were in 50th place on day 1. And there's 160 boats in this tournament. So they were all excited, and I said, do it again tomorrow. That's all you got to do. They were just nervous, and I said, hey, you're up against a lot of these guys, but look, you beat 50 of them on day 1.
Right.
And there's the season. These are guys that live for this stuff.
Right.
But so you don't have to have all that top stuff. You just gotta know where to fish.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Times. When the water's muddy and it's hard fishing, I fished really good for that day. Yeah, there might not be average fish, but there's more fish than the rest of the guys are bringing in, because they're trying to go for a home run swing.
That's true. Getting your five is very important rule to live by. And
it is.
I've struggled with that and I always thought to myself, just, go find your big, you think you can get a big fish here, there, go get that. And then go on to your five. Where lately, I've actually swapped that around, and I went from catching maybe a third of my tournament's checks a year to like last year I catched the most amount of checks I just because I made sure I had 5 in the boat, put 5 on the card.
I know,
and then play the game.
And I don't. I'm kind of like some of them pros. There's a guy that I really like, Dusty Minky. He never swings for it, and that's kind of like what I do. Is I go out and I catch my 5. So the way the Michigan Walleye Tour works is they take the top 25 or 30. Sometimes it's 25, sometimes it's 30 a year to the championship. And there's 150 teams. So I weigh it because it goes by points too. So every tournament I weigh in 5 fish. I don't care if it's a 15-inch walleye. I'm weighing in 5. And the last 5 years, I've been at every championship. I haven't missed one yet. Just because I try to fish smart, not and it costs me in the long run. I don't cash big checks like all these other guys, but some of these other guys are taking zeros at some of these tournaments. Right. And it's like, man, I just can't swallow taking a 0.
Right. Yeah. Even when you have the bad day, I'll still go up there with my 2 or 3 and be like, hey, at least this is my day. I'm not gonna just, be the guy that just dumps them in the water and calls it a day on whatever. Yeah. Just turns your card and leaves.
Yeah.
So is that catch, pitch, and release over there? No.
So the way we do it, the way the Michigan Walleye Tour does it, it's a 5 fish per boat, and they harvest those fish. Right. So they did too many. We were putting them in these tanks. And they were like releasing them later, but the DNR did a study, and it's like a 90% chance they're going to die. Yeah. So if anybody knows Saginaw Bay and Michigan and the Detroit River, there's thousands of walleye. I mean, so, but I do like that. I've never been in a tournament yet where it's catch, take a picture, and release, but I do want to do that.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because it's kind of that's the one thing I miss about. So we only have, unless we do the NWT or something like that, we only have one tournament around here, around Bago and Green Bay that is actual. You keep them, right? You bring in your live weight. So it's a different way you think about things, right? Like if I'm doing the catch, picture, release, it's easy. You take a picture of it, you just stack them all up, right? Because you can have 30 on a card. But when you only can put 5 in a boat, kind of change how things work a little bit for you.
It really does. And so when we go to Escanaba, there's a slot limit. And once you put that fish in the live well, you can't take it back out.
Okay.
So you can have 2 over 24 and the rest have to be under 20.
Oh.
So, like our first one was like 8.5 pounds, so that's a no-brainer. Yep. And then the second one's like 6, and you're like, do you want to throw a 6-pounder in? Because then the next fish you catch is like 7 or 8, So It's real hard to do, but so the way 90% of our tournaments are is you can call your fish.
Okay.
So you put them in a live well. If you catch a bigger one, you can release that one and you can call.
Yeah. That's one thing we don't have in Wisconsin. We're no calling, so
yeah. And I think
once it's in, it's in.
I think that is better that way because there's some guys on this tour that get so lucky, and I'm next to them when they get lucky, and I'm like, man, the luck these guys have. I'd hate to be at home with them because they ain't got no luck at home. They're all on the boat.
Right.
Just unbelievable the luck. And I think if it was a no call, it'd be a little bit tighter because some of these tournaments are normally they're within ounces, but some of them are the one last weekend. It was 51 pounds for 2 days, and second place was 30 pounds.
Wow.
So these two guys are old timers, and they fish the river every day, and they stayed in their spot and got 5 bites a day. But I'm telling you, they were giant bites. And I knew they were once I seen they were in it, I'm like, there's your winners right there. You know, they're in their late 60s, and that's all they do is fish every day.
Right.
So
I hope that's me.
Yeah, me too. You know, because I have a job, I'm working, and I paint new cars, and you know, I work 50, 60 hours a week, and then fish when I can. You know, I got lots of vacation time, but
yep.
You know, it's still tough. And then my kids are in college, so now I got more time. So
that's nice when they kind of get up and start moving on. I know, and obviously it sounds like that was kind of where you were as the kids kind of graduated out of high school. You're able to kind of get back into some fishing and really kind of move forward. I spent some time coaching baseball and stuff, and you know, my kids were around. And then once that was over with, I was like, okay, well, that small boat's going to get upgraded, and it's going to get upgraded again. And then a couple of years later, I'm sitting with a nice, shiny, sparkly boat that I spend all my time either in it or cleaning it, one of the two.
Yeah, me too. I'm real picky, and you know, it's just I had aluminum boats my whole life, and I love them. I'll fish out of them. I fished out of them 2 weeks ago, and my buddy's 15, 16 footer, and it's like I'll fish out of anything. It don't matter, you know. But it just my kids moved on, and I'm like, you know what? I'm saving some money. I'm like, I'm going to go out and buy a boat, and I'm going to get into this, you know. And my GM at the time said he would sponsor me if I was serious. Mm-hmm. So I went and bought a boat and laid it down on his paper in the office, and he's like, I guess you're serious. And I'm like, yep. So, I mean, I got a few sponsors. I mean, that's not a lot. You know, I got a few lure sponsors, but as far as that goes, I buy everything myself, you know.
Yep.
But no, I enjoy fishing with anybody. It don't matter the age. I'll take anybody fishing. So as long as we're here.
Right. So tell me about your first tournament experience.
So the first tournament experience was on the Detroit River, and it was in April, and it was snowing. There had 3 or 4 inches of snow on the boat, and we caught 1 fish all weekend.
Wow.
And it was just, and, you know, guys were bringing in 40-pound sacks, and I'm like, I was humbled, you know, because I'm just like, man, these guys, you know, and I didn't know a lot of them. When my first year, I kind of got this cold shoulder to a lot of them, you know. They're like, oh, here comes this guy thinking he's got a nice boat, a nice truck, and I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to get into it, you know.
Yep.
And then it was a really rough one. I got home and the wife's like, how'd you do? And I'm like, caught 1 fish all weekend. You know, so the way the Michigan Walleye Tour works, you can have 3 in a boat.
Okay.
You know,
people?
3 people.
Right.
Yep. So what's nice about it, it's you can have 3 people, and it's $550 to enter the tournament. So if you got 3 working guys, you know, you can split that with 3 guys. So it makes it affordable for the average guy to fish it. You know what I mean? So you split $550 three ways, you know, and you can fish. So, I mean, so that's kind of nice in that theory where you.
Hey, listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fix TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fix TV. And when you're done with that and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
You can have a 3-man team, so you got 3 guys jigging.
That's cool.
And then if you got 2 guys, if you're trolling, which we were big trollers, we were. You can get two guys manning the rods and then one guy driving and paying attention and netting.
Yep.
So it really, the 3-man team, it really, it ain't just for the pro, because you got three guys now that put their heads together and you go out and fish,
Yeah.
And to find 3 guys that get along and share info, it's tough,
Right.
because I see teams going through guys left and right every tournament. It's like,
That's crazy.
One guy that says, "Oh, we're doing it this way." Well, y'all got to get along in the boat,
Right.
And,
Even for 2-man team, it's tough to find somebody that you're really compatible with. That even at we can go fish together every day, but like, do you fish the way I fish? Do we want to fish the same way? Right. I mean, I've had a couple different partners and trying to find somebody that, like, hey, I want to fish kind of like our style and not chase bites kind of thing, right? And some people want to do different things. I'm like, I feel like I'm more of a pulling hand guy, and try to find somebody that wants to do that with me, and not, you get stuck with a troll. You're like, well, I don't want to troll. People
don't realize it. If once you find that person, it flows so good. Everything, because there's a lot. The tournament world lately has been under some serious, and there's a lot of stuff people don't see, but there's a lot of stress involved. I mean, there's a lot of money on the line, but it's at the end of the day, it ain't all about money. You got to get along with the guy you're fishing with, and and let's say you're fishing 5 days straight, and we're just jacking 5, 6, 7 pounders all week, and all of a sudden tournament day and we're down to 2 pounders. That takes some stress. You're like, where'd these fish go? And then now there's 3 of us, and we kind of put our heads together and like, all right, let's try this, or and everybody's using different lures. So I mean, that's really good. We're all casting different stuff.
Yep. That's true.
And one guy in the back of the boat catches 2 fish, I'm switching. I'm not going to be that guy.
Right. I'm not going to be too proud in that boat.
Oh, and I got some hurdles to get. I'm colorblind, so it makes it tough.
I bet.
I don't get too many people call and say, "What color are you using?" Because sometimes but so. I've got over, all my favorite stuff works, and then everybody on the boat, they're like, "Oh, Van Wormer, here, put this on, you're using," I'll be like, "I'm already using green." They're like, "No, you ain't." But, it's kind of funny, and I paint new cars. So
that'd be terrible if it goes the other way around. You're just out fishing with your buddies for fun, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to put a blue one on." No, you got a blue on. Don't worry about it. They're giving you wrong colors to put on.
Yeah, like I'll be just hammering them, and they'll be like, "What are you using?" I'm like, "I'm using blue ice." He's like, "Dude, that's purple." And I'm like, "Well, I thought it was in the right package." But so I got, and it hasn't stopped me. Just my close friends know about it. I mean, it's not like I got a sign on my boat. This dude's colorblind, But
everybody everybody wants to overcome something, right? I mean, I struggle with seasickness, so I'm nonstop. I'm pumping pills. I'm doing whatever it takes to stay in the boat. And for a long time, I didn't even want to go. There was years before I was like, I just don't feel like it. And then finally, I'm like, I'm just going to figure out how I can get through this. And now I know how I get through it for the course of the day. And, every morning I'm taking a pill at a certain time before I get in the water, and re-upping as I go to make sure I'm not all wheezy and laying the bottom of a boat.
Yeah, everybody, has some issues, but I mean, I don't really think that's an issue for me, because I got a lot of favorite lures, and I know what they are, and I use them, and
right.
They work. And I had some problems 2 years ago when I bought Lowrance Live Target. I put it on the front of my boat, and I could not see those fish. I'm like, man, I'm cast. My buddy's like, "Why are you casting over there? That's the bottom." And I'm like, I don't know. I thought it was a fish. So I had to switch. I got rid of all that stuff and went to Garmin, the 34 series now, and I can see. I got it at the bright blue screen. I can see them. I can see them plain as day now. But that Lowrance Live Target, I had it for 2 years, and I don't think I pitched at a single fish. I mean, I'm like, I know they're down there, but so now with Garmin, I really feel like it's made me a better fisherman because of the color palettes that's on there, you know.
Oh, there you go.
So
yeah, it's crazy what, especially that new 34, how that works.
I love it. I fell in love with that. I mean, I put it on my boat, and you know, even when I'm jigging in the river, even if people don't want to cast with it, I'm jigging my favorite hole in the river, and I got it on down, and I'm watching the bottom, these fish darting in and out, and then I go over another hole, and there's no fish, or there's a couple. Well, that hole up there is active. Let's go back up there. It's just a huge difference. Right. Even if you don't live scope, just having it for when you're in the rivers, it's huge.
Right. And it was funny because I didn't, with the 32, I fished, I'm a river guy too as well, a lot of rocks and stuff. And I never really could tell the difference in the rocks. And I would get there, I'd kind of use it to kind of pick up where the rocks are at to fish at. And then with the 34, now I'm like, I actually can see the fish in there now. I can see them moving around in there. And I'm like, I can see my bait in current with all the debris is springing. I'm like, that's freaking crazy. That's how just the difference in the 32 to 34 just blew my mind.
Oh, the first tournament I fished, it was the Saginaw River, and I got this big fish on the bottom, and I'm bringing them up, and I'm going to crack them, and I can see the whiskers on this thing, and I'm like, that's a catfish. So, I mean, I was amazed. I'm like, and now I can tell drum. We were catching drum this weekend. Me and the wife had a tournament, and I'm like, pull your lines up. There's a bunch of drum down there. But it's just, it's came a long ways. And this is being my second year using it. And I use it all the time now. I mean, I love just looking at the bottom, you know, changing stuff up. And it's just, it's the way to go. It really is.
Right. So as somebody that's grown up fishing and spent all their time on the water, did you ever think this was going to come about? Did you ever dream of those days fishing the river as a young kid that they would have literally a radar system for your?
You know, I would sit on the dock, and my mom said, you know, this is back in I graduated high school in 97. So, but this was back in the early 90s that I would just sit on the dock, and these sparkly boats, you know, back then what they had would come by. And my mom says, you would be like in a trance looking at out these boats, and I was just glued to them, you know. And I told her someday I'm going to have one of these boats, and I'm going to be fishing like that because, you know, and the technology, we had the little hummingbird that with the little fish go across the screen, you know, and just, that's the kind of stuff we fished with, you know?
Yeah.
And, the paper graft, I started out on a paper graft. And when you run on a paper, you're done fishing. It's like, I mean, that's some old stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I never dreamed that, you know, that I would have this kind of technology, you know, and I know I was working, man. So I worked for everything I got to get to where I was at, you know, and I sacrificed a lot, but you know, it's here, and I have the stuff, and
right. I kind of thought I thought side imaging was the best it was ever going to be. Like I thought that was the end of the world. Like, oh my God, this is so fabulous.
I have two 12-inch Lowrance HDS lives on my dash.
Yep.
And I run those on side scan, one on side scan and the other one on mapping. So my buddy last year, we were handlining the river, Detroit River, because it was all mud. We were in a tournament, and he's a Garmin guy, and he's driving the boat, and he goes, get ready, Mark, you're going to catch one. And pretty soon, my hand's jerking. I'm like, I got one. So he did that all day, and he's like, you know what? He goes, he could see those fish setting up, and he'd turn towards them, and either one of the guys we'd catch those fish. He called it like 30 times, and I'm like, yeah, I thought he was just guessing, you know.
Wow.
And but that side scan, and then now the lakes up here, we fished the championship. We were driving around on a lake, and we'd mark the pods of bait fish, and we'd mark them, and we'd go back in there with the live scope, and those walleyes would be setting up behind them. We'd catch every one of them. I mean, it was to see that on side scan and then go up to the front of the boat and see it on live scope is just amazing.
Right. So I want to get into Detroit River with you because I am a river nut and I prefer to fish current every time I can possibly do it.
Like
Detroit
5
River
mile an
is
hour.
yeah.
It's fast.
So that's one of my places I want to fish someday or on my bucket list. So tell me about
If
it.
you get down this way, you call me and I'll take you out fishing.
Perfect.
I'll show you all the spots.
So tell me about it. Is it deep? Is it?
So what was so good about the Detroit River, and I'm no expert, I've been fishing it for probably 10 years. You got Lake Erie on one end of it,
Yep.
and then you got Lake St. Clair at the other end.
Yep.
So and Lake Erie's just gigantic. So you got two huge lakes. And what's nice about it is the main channel is mostly on Michigan side, but then there's the Canadian side, which is all cattails and mud and sand flats. The Michigan side is a lot of rock. It's all construction. Like you got oil, you got like steel mills, and so there's a lot of stuff going on the Michigan side. But there's spots in that river is like 4 or 5 miles wide. And it's a huge river. It's not like you could get lost in some of them spots on this river. I mean, you get turned around but there's just so many ways you control it. You can hand line it, cast it. I mean, that they had the head-to-head a couple years ago on there, and a guy was casting. And I mean, you can catch. The best day that I think I've had was 75 walleye we've caught during a tournament. And I didn't even want to touch another walleye the next day. I'm like, my hands were so tore up. But you can catch a lot of fish.
Wow.
In that river.
So tell me about hand lining. Never hand lined before in my life.
Yeah,
it looks goofy.
The reason why we get into the hand lining is because there's the first tournaments of the year are normally mud. And they're high water, and we go to these tournaments, and the top 5 to 10 teams are hand lining. So they're winning all the money. So you're like, if you don't got hand lines, you must stay home.
Right.
I mean, you got to be able to compete. So I ended up meeting a guy. Me and the wife were fishing, and I went up to the boat launch, and here's this guy with a 14-foot aluminum boat, and we had a couple 2 or 3 pound walleye, and he's like, I said, how'd you do? And he's like, oh, I got my limit. And he had 8 and 9 pounders. And I'm like, and it's a little 14-foot boat. So the guy's name was Don. And I said, what are you doing tomorrow? And he's like, I'll probably go fishing. I said, would you like to fish in my boat tomorrow? I said, I got hand lines and I have never caught a fish on them. And he's like, sure. So he met me at the launch and we went out the whole day and he gave me the shakedown on catching walleye. And he took me to a spot, and I dropped down. So you got a 1 pound weight.
Okay.
And then you got a reel that mounts to your track with some wire. And then you got a lead going off that you hook I use a 10 on the bottom and a 20 on the top.
Okay.
With a floating rappel, like a number 9 or a number 7. And what you do is you drop that 1 pound weight on the bottom and you just lift it up real slow and then you let it touch the bottom. Lift it up. What that's doing, because the current, and it's real fast current, and it's mud, it keeps that rapala next to that fish for a second longer than your jig. So now they're feeling the vibration on the side of their face, and then they just swat at it, and you got them.
I gotcha.
So it's really not hand-to-hand combat. You got that. You're holding on the line. So what you do is you lift the wire up, and it retracts in the spool, and then you grab a hold of the leader, and then you net the fish.
I gotcha.
It's a sport. There's a lot of people that do it, but it's not rod in hand, I mean, you just
right.
want to put fish in the boat at this point.
Yeah.
And it's really effective. I mean, there's been 3 years ago, the big National Walleye Tour was one hand lining on the Detroit River. Wow. So there's been hundreds of thousands of dollars won on hand lining.
That's crazy.
I'm good enough to catch. I can catch fish on it. Now, when we get in that situation where it's tournament day and the whole river's blowed out, mud, high water, then you got a hand line.
You got a hand line.
There's really no other way.
That makes sense. I mean, I never understood them. I can't, because around here we don't have the current, right? So around here we can do lead core and get stuff down there and not have to worry about it. But we also don't have the same current.
Yeah, we're talking huge current and the zero visibility. I'm talking when you bring that fish up, their eyes are all glassed over because they're coming out of the mud. I mean, they're pale looking. They don't even look like a walleye. And they're swimming in this stuff, but they're just trying to survive too,
Right.
But it's when we have to hand line, it's like, man, because my back's gonna hurt because I'm sitting in the back of the boat, leaning back. But I use them stadium chairs that when you go to your games, the ones you sit on the bleachers.
Yeah.
So I put those there. You got a backrest, It's a job. You got to wear a glove, and I mean, you swap out, you got the guy driving. He's kind of staying on the current seam or on a break, and then you're kind of going real slow back and forth hand lining because you don't want to go fast. You want to keep that bait down where those fish are at.
I gotcha.
So
is it a big bite when they hit with that big weight on there? Can you feel them hit or?
Yeah. So what you'll feel with the 1 pound weight, what you'll feel is like tugging, like somebody's tugging on the back of your shirt, and then you got one. So you're like, then you go real slow. Yeah, it really ain't nothing finesse about it. You're just traveling, covering water, trying to find the big hens, and I've caught some really nice fish doing it. Last year we did it, and we caught about 32 to 35 fish a day doing it. And I caught doubles. You catch doubles all the time, but you just got to find that right spot,
How's the hookup ratio? Is that pretty good once they're on?
Yeah, it's pretty good because you got the Rapala with the treble hooks on it, so it's pretty good hookup ratio. You'll get them in the side of the face, one will be in the mouth, and you don't really snag them because you're just pulling it real slow
through them, basically.
Using floating Rapalas too. So, but there's a trick to it. That Don, he took me out all day and we hammered the fish. And I'm like, I didn't know it was this easy. And he's like, yeah, you're overthinking it. Just get down there and do it, And
that's crazy.
I met people, just some guy at the boat launch in a 14-foot boat. I said, would you like to go fishing tomorrow? So some of your best info you're going to get from locals. And people
for sure.
Realize you can't beat a local. I don't care what you say. He's been on that river or he's been on that lake. You ain't going to beat him.
Yeah. He knows where everything's at. He knows where every boulder is.
Oh, yeah. And the fish are over here today. So I try to talk to a lot of people. My buddy's like, why you got to talk to everybody? I'm like, because someday it's going to pay off. And it does. We took a 0 on day one year in Detroit, and I just couldn't believe it. We were just – and then that night at the hotel, I seen these Wisconsin guys, and they're like, oh, we caught 200 walleye yesterday. I said, dude, come on. He's like, yeah, we're leaving tonight. I'll tell you right where to go. We went over there and caught probably 60 walleye that day.
Wow.
Over some guy out in the parking lot. So, I mean, you can't beat info. I mean,
Yeah, info definitely helps.
Yeah, I mean, because there's just so much to fish in Detroit. I mean, if you go there, you'll see it's just an unbelievable fishery.
So is the fishery good all year long? Are they always in there staging? Or is it
normally from like April 1st through the whole month of April, because the fish spawn quick. Like there'll be days where we'll catch 6, 7, 8 pounders and they're tight. And the next day we go back there and there's this much spawn in the bottom of my live well.
Oh.
So they're spawning. They spawn quick.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion anyways. I mean, just by what I've seen. But to me, if you have to go on the Canadian side most of the time, that's where it's won at. So this year we were fishing Canadian water, and that's where the big tournament was won at. It's Canadian water. We're right next to the guys that are catching these fish, so we're all in the same area.
Right.
It seems now every tournament I fish, I'm right where the winner comes from. You just got to be lucky.
Right.
My day will come. It's just good. I haven't won one of them big ones yet, but I'm not going to give up.
Right.
And if you try, nothing's impossible.
Right.
I've seen it won on 16-foot boats, these big tournaments. I mean, it's not. You just got to be lucky. It's a lot of luck.
Yeah, you got to put your time in, get ready to go, and there is a bit of luck that goes to that just a good day you have out in the water, right? There's always something that happens that can either turn your day completely sideways, or somehow you manage to save the day.
Yeah, I mean, the majority of checks that I've cashed, it just seems like I knew it was coming. Like, we caught the fish, and it's like they're getting bigger, and you just got that feeling. We did pretty good today, and then you go in and you see the weights, and you're like, yeah, we did really good. You kind of get that feeling,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I've had those days though where I thought did good, and it came in, and it was completely not. I mean, I thought we were in the top 5. I'm like, we're in top 5. We're at a lake. Then we had, I think, 30 pounds around us. That's a good day. Good day. And we didn't even crack the top 20. And I'm like, what the hell happened?
I know.
I thought we were on what we need to be on. And, everybody just found a little bigger fish. And I'm like, God damn.
I know. So we were down in Detroit, and we had a camera guy on our boat, and it was for the big tournament. And we were catching 5. We had a 5-pound average. And I'm like, all right, we'll start out with 25 pounds, and we'll see where it goes, And he gets on our boat, and I'm like, man, you know what happens when you get a camera guy on the boat? I'm like, this ain't going to be good. But I was nervous. I was so nervous. So I had a mic on, and I think the smallest fish we cracked that day was 7.5 pounds. We were the first pass. We put like 30 pounds in the box, and this dude's on the front of the boat filming, and I'm netting 7-8 pounders, and I'm like, this is like a dream day. We weren't even in the top 50 when we got back, and there's 150 boats, and I'm like, how does this happen? It's just that's how it was. And we went out the next day and caught another. We had like 66 pounds, and we didn't even cash a check.
Wow.
That
weight is so crazy to me. Just the size of fish that you guys are catching over there. And, over here on Bago, if we're catching, 15, 17, 18 pounds a day, we're cashing checks every day pretty much.
I know.
And when I see you guys out there dropping 50 pounds a day, I'm like, Jesus.
I don't have a problem catching those kind of weights. I'd love to do that, but it's just, it don't matter what conditions, where you're at, these guys, these anglers, they're going to find them. They just are. I mean, you can be the best of the best, but these guys are going to find them. It does not matter. It don't matter if it's windy, wavy. It just Michigan's so big, and it's the top 150 anglers. There's just so many people that they're going to find them. So if we'll come in like, yeah, we did decent today, and then we'll be right up top, and it's like, wow, they didn't do that good. And then the next day they come in with a mega bag, like 38, 40 pounds. It's like, holy. So it's just. Tournament fishing's weird because you can think you're doing good and you're not, or you can think you're not doing good and you did great.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what gets me. I love fishing so much, and then I fish these tournaments, and a lot, 90% of the time I'm not doing that great, but I always say, you know what, I'm coming back tomorrow and I'm gonna do better.
Yep.
And it seems to me when I have a terrible pre-fish, I do better in a tournament. Because I don't have no expectations,
Like so.
Cracking 30-pound bags or 25-pound bags, and then we go into tournament day, and I'm expecting that, and it don't happen. It's like, oh man. So I think I fish better when I don't catch a lot of fish, a big fish,
right?
Because I'm not expecting. All right, for the last 4 days, I got over 30 pounds today. Let's do it today. Well, guess what? Ain't gonna happen today.
Yeah, it seems like when you think you have it figured out, you kind of lose some of that drive to really keep pushing forward.
You're trying to do the same thing you did the last 3 days. Well, something's changed, and it's hard. That to me, that's the hardest about tournament fishing is adjusting on the fly.
Yep.
Trying to put the pieces together and make it happen because you're all week. Me and my wife fished a big one. She pre-fished with me for a week straight, and we had a scale going. She would weigh her biggest 5, and I would weigh my biggest 5. We were trolling crawlers,
Yep.
and she's cracking 25 to 28 pounds a day on her side, and I'm by herself setting her own depths, doing everything, and I'm like, I expected 20 pounds a day to win this thing, and she's hammering these fish. And we go out tournament day, and we're bringing in 16 pounds. It's like, and it was right. 20 pounds won it a day.
Yeah.
But I was expecting, I'm like, well, if my wife's catching 28 by herself, we should be good. You're not.
It's funny when you pre-fish a lot, when you pretty much have an idea what the winning weight's going to be. You just got to find a way to get there, right? You can generally tell where the weight's going to be at. You're like, okay, I feel like if I can get to here, I'm going to be right up in that higher echelon of the money.
Yeah, I mean, now I got a lot of vacation time, so I take a week off every time for these tournaments. I take a whole week and I fish, and sometimes I think it hurts me fishing that long.
Yeah, get burnt out.
A lot of stuff before Friday. Well, by Saturday, all that's in the garbage.
Yeah,
I got to switch, or I got to, and it just. But I think anybody can do it. I really do. You just gotta want it, and and it's expensive. But if that's what you want to do, find a way.
Right, but there's it is expensive. There's also everybody's always looking for a partner too. So
yeah, I mean,
like you said before, talking to people, it can be easy getting a boat with somebody if that doesn't, partners unavailable or whatever. Just get in the groups. And it is walleye fishing tournament. It seems like it's a harder nut to crack for his people. It seems like you got to put a little bit of time in before they let you in a little bit.
Yeah, like it was the first year and a half. I mean, I don't think 2 or 3 people talked to me. I mean, they say hi to me, and then I got these other guys that are been fishing in the tour for 30 plus years, and they're like, you know what, Van Wormer, you keep doing it, and you're gonna win one of these things. I just know you are. Just hearing that from them guys, and he's like, you're going to be in it. Just keep going. And I did and did and did. Now, the first tournament of the year, I cashed a check. And, I mean, now cashing checks it's not too hard if you fish. Right. But I got to get to that next level now. And, trying to get lucky and, find your strengths and fish them.
Right. Like I say on my profile, I'm a proficient casher of small checks. I can cash the hell out of a $200 check. But,
yeah. I mean,
getting up that list, that top echelon, that can be, has been elusive for me. I've cashed, I won a smaller tournament, and then Merck Nationals a few years ago, I took second by it was seven ounces, and we had a fish left to catch. We thought we had it. Our math was wrong. We were off. We had one fish left we could have put in the box. We could have stopped. All we needed was, I think, like a 19 or upgraded. We had upgraded an 18-inch fish, and all we needed was 7 ounces to win it. And we thought we had it.
Yeah, I know. It's just 2 years ago I finished 10th in the state at the Sault Ste. Marie. So it was the top anglers. I took a whole week off work, and my pre-fish was 1 to 2 fish a day. And there was, so I was staying at Drummond Island with a buddy, and I was fishing. We each had our own boat. We were fishing by ourselves all day, like just one guy in the boat. That's and there tough. Was 3 days straight. I never even marked a fish or caught one. And it's like, oh, this is bad. We went out tournament day, 21 pounds right away. I'm like, within the first hour, and I'm like, and it showed. We finished 10th in the state that year. So we finished the top 10, and I was so happy. Did it on my own, and and I only had one other angler with me that year, and he held his own, and he's a good buddy of mine that I grew up with my whole life, so we know each other. And he came up on a Friday night because he had kids and work, and I said, I'll do all the pre-fishing. You just jump in the boat on tournament day. And he's like, are we going to even catch one today? And I'm like, I'm not promising you anything. he cracked like a 5-pounder right away, and we just made it happen the rest of the day, you know. But yeah, I mean, as far as big paychecks, I haven't really got any too big ones yet, but it'll come. If you know,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
hoping
for sure.
it will. If it don't, and it ain't all about the money. It really isn't.
Right.
You know, I mean, I got that. My work sponsors me, and he helps me pay for the entry fees and stuff. But it ain't. At the end of the day, it's not about money. It's about you know. Now I get 20 phone calls a day when I'm before the tournament from all the other anglers. They're calling me, you know. So now I got tons of people that I talk to, you know.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, I'm kind of in the group now, and that, you know, they see me on the water. Everybody waves. You know, there's 150 teams. You know, and that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
So a question for you. If you in the tournament, would you rather have a day where you're like catching, cycling through tons of fish, or you got like you're fish for them 5-6 bites, but you get them?
Yeah. So the hardest part, see, growing up and fishing, I love to go out and whack 20, 30 walleye, and that's nothing to do on Saginaw Bay. Right. I mean, you can do that in no time. So I had to get myself off of trying to go out and hammer the fish because they're never the right ones.
Yeah.
You know, you're not catching them big 8-9 pounders in a school of 3-pounders. So the hardest part is trying not to catch a lot of fish, but to catch the right ones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when we were fishing in Escanaba, there was a slot limit. You had to go out and catch 5, but 3 of them had to be under 20 inches. That's hard to do. You know, a lot of them fish are coming from Green Bay. You know, we're not far from Green Bay.
Yep.
Or Wisconsin, I mean. So, but we kind of fished one rock pile all day, and it was like 30 to 40 foot deep all the way around, and it came up to like 18-foot rock pile. And on day 1, we had 7 bites, and I said we're going to go back there on day 2 and catch and fish all day. We never moved the whole day. And this is before we had live scope. This was 4 or 5 years ago. They had it, but it was, like I said, the old one, you know, wasn't that. So we were just our side scan most of the day, and you could see there was a couple fish up on the rocks, and we'd catch them. But on day 2, we had 5 bites all day of casting the same rock pile.
Right.
So 3 guys.
That's what I love. Just having that spot, knowing they're there, and just putting yourself in that line, watching the line hitting the water, and all you're doing is staring at that, feeling for the tip, and you're doing that all day long for that one bite.
You know, and we were down like it was day 1, day 2, and we were right up in the standings. We had a mega bag on day 1, and we had like less than 5 minutes to go, and I'm like, well, we're only going to get 4 bites today. But I'm like, everybody's kind of picking up, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going. I'm going to just keep casting until they say it's got to go, you know? Mm-hmm. So I cast it out. Like, we were like less than a minute away, my buddies, because I have my buddy, he's always watching time because I'm not that good at it. I'll pay attention. I'll be like, let's go over here. Let's do, you know, and he's like, you don't got that kind of time, you know? So he's dedicated on keeping track of the time. And he's like, we got less than a minute. And I casted one more time, and that hit the water, and I popped it once, and I seen my line, the slack tick, and I'm like, I felt it. And I looked at him. I was like, I got one. I set the hook, and it was the under that we needed. It was a 19 fish. I mean, it was hit the net in the live well, and my buddy was on the throttle that quick.
Right.
So, I mean, but yeah, I'd rather not catch a ton of fish, to be honest, just to catch the right ones.
Yeah.
You gotta
I kind of like that going out, and you're striving for them a couple bites, and they gotta be the right ones. I mean, like you said, it's nice to go out and beat up on some fish, you know.
Oh, but, yeah, it really is.
But they're definitely not going to be what you're looking for in most cases. So you're looking for those, one-off fish, and knowing you're in the right area for them. You just got to put the time in it for them. As you sit and do the math in your head, like, okay, we're an hour in, we have 1 fish. Okay, we're on track. We're on track.
Yeah.
You know, we're an hour and we have 2 fish. We're ahead of schedule. Everything's going well here. We're moving along.
The way I try to put all my tournaments in my brain is we catch 3 fish before lunch and 2 fish after lunch. That's it. Right. And we don't eat until there's 5 fish in the boat.
Right. Pretty simple. Pretty simple.
Yeah, game. I mean, if you can put 3 fish in the boat before noon, you're going to catch 5.
Yeah.
So that's my goals on every tournament. Let's catch 3 before lunch and 2 after lunch, and we'll be fine. You know, and I think now every tournament's I'm getting better and better. I'm trying to stay where I know the bigger ones are at, and if they 90% of the time they come, we'll catch them. It's just, you know, it's setting yourself up mentally to sit here all day and only get 5 bites when you know somebody's across the lake whacking them, but those aren't the right fish.
Yep, for sure. Or you see people moving around. Are they making the right choice? Should we be moving around? Is this going to produce the 5 we need today? That whole game can be tough sometimes.
Yeah, you know.
Sometimes you lose that argument in your head, and sometimes you win it and you do well. And
yeah, I know. If I see a lot of big shooters, like normally there's a group of guys that are always just up in the top 10 all the time. I mean, they're just good fishermen.
Yep.
You know, they're catching a ton of slack about are they cheating, and just if you're winning, people don't like you. Period.
For sure. Yeah.
So, but when I see them running and gunning midday, I look at my partner and I'm like, we ain't going nowhere. We're sitting here because this is how it's got to be.
Right. Yeah.
You know, just if you see them both, you know, and you know these guys, I see them. I see their boat go by twice. I'm like, we ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. They're moving for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. You just gotta. I think being a tournament fisherman opens your eyes, you know, because you can fish your same spot every day and be happy with it when you're out just fun fishing. But if you fish a tournament in that spot, you're going to figure out every current seam. You're going to figure out way more than you did. Now this spot's way better because you sat there for 8 hours.
That's true.
So I think if people want to get into tournament fishing, I think they can learn a lot more about their favorite spots. Because I have a lot of favorite spots. I'll fish, you know, and I've always, this weekend, we were in that mud, and I told the wife, we just got to catch 1 fish today to stay in it. And we went to one of my spots where I caught a nice fish 5 years ago, and I cracked a 4.5 pounder with a tag in it right away. So, I mean, it was a great day because we were in 9th place now on day 1. Right. I mean, so I still have those favorite spots, but I think if you get into a tournament, you can really dial them in better because you're there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know? That makes a lot of sense. So what's your favorite technique?
Well, you know, I was a big spinner guy. I love to control crawlers. I really do. I got a lot of nice crawler harnesses, and I tie my own. But now that all this forward-facing sonar, I like to pitch between, like, on all the lakes tournaments. I like to throw a jig and a crawler, which I don't catch a lot of fish on it, but they're decent. And I like to fish a Rapala. So I throw a lot of the jig and wraps is what I throw. Blue and chrome is a good one, and then the Tiger Fire. But I got a ton of those because they don't last.
Right.
They break off. But I do like a lot of. This year I switched to the puppet minnow. It seemed like it lasts a little bit longer. The plastic bill or the plastic fin in the back's not. But I like to. I'd say in the last 2 years I like to fish fast. So I like a 1 ounce. Or I like a 1 ounce. Really, I like to fish fast. I like to feel the bottom, and I like to get down to those fish. So I like to fish a little bit faster than the slow falling. You know, some of them. You know, I'm using a lot of tungsten jigs this year. I switched over.
I gotcha.
So, my plans on some of the lake tournaments to use a lot of crawler. You know, jigging a crawler is an effective way to catch them. I learn every time I go out. I learn something new about live scoping. You know.
Right.
So I switched everything this year to Garmin, even my trolling motor to that Garmin Kraken.
Nothing.
So beginning of last year, I switched it all over, and it's with being it's brushless. It don't use any battery juice. You can fish all in heavy waves. So
That's
I mean,
pretty awesome.
It was expensive, but in the long run, when I hear at weigh-in these guys up on stage, we're out of juice by noon. It's like, well, then you're done.
Yeah, you're done. There's nothing. Yeah, that's funny because people talk about, especially nowadays, people are like, oh, it's about trolling motors and this and that and the prices of them. But if you sit and think about what you're on all day long, you are on that troll motor a hell of a lot more than any other motor you ever will have.
Yep. Yeah. And then I always was a Minn Kota guy for my whole life. That's all I ever owned is Minn Kota. And then last year, I have a good buddy that owns a shop. He says, you ought to try that Garmin Kraken. All the wires run through the center of the pole. So there's nothing when your motor's in the water, there's nothing but a pole down there.
Yep.
So your live scope cables go through the center, and he goes, it's brushless and you lose less batteries, So I fished a tournament in some 2 and 3 footers all day, bowing to the wind. And I got back to the boat launch and my batteries were at 66% after a whole day of fishing.
That's crazy.
So it told me right there,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's funny. People don't want to spend the money. But that's your motor. That's what you fish on. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I go to work every day. I make good money, and I'm like, you know what? I don't want to spend $4,500 on a trolling motor, but guess what? I'm gonna have to if I want to be in this, And I mean, the way the new technology with these trolling motors being brushless is just people have no idea the amount.
Right. I don't have one yet, and that's going to be. I'm thinking that's my next year purchase. I had to have my other one last year. I got rebuilt.
Yeah.
I got water inside of it, so rebuilt. So I'm like, I put money into. I'm like, okay, well, we'll roll another year here, and I think we're going to jump up to the brushless because I have a buddy that fishes that I talked to quite a bit that in a different boat, but he's got it. He's like, dude, that thing is awesome.
I know. I had that Altera with the auto deploy with my 2021 Ranger. It came on the boat.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fix TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fix TV. And when you're done with that and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
And I was at the Sioux fishing that championship all week, and the thing wouldn't deploy, and it broke. And I'm like, this can't be happening because this is what I need. So I took it to a place in the Sioux, and that guy fixed it. It was $750 to fix it, but he had me up and running the same day. Put a new drive on it, and I'm like, whatever. But that would kill batteries. So I had lithium with that motor, and it would still kill a battery in 5, 6, 7 hours of fishing.
Really?
So I went to the Garmin now, all up front with the graph and the live scope, and it's just I don't even worry about batteries now.
Okay.
To be honest.
Yeah, I haven't. I have the Ultrex, the other one. Yeah, and with lithiums, but I also I installed the power pole charge thing a few years ago, and that thing has been a lifesaver for me. So even if I do have a day where it's not going great for me, I'll just flip on the motor for an hour and just charge everything back up. There's not many times I get back to landing where I don't have battery because the run back is charging me. That thing's been pretty awesome.
Yeah, if you're gonna fish, I think if I had any advice to give anybody on fishing tournaments, you have to have a good trolling motor. Be honest with you. Yeah, electronics they help, but man, if you ain't got a trolling motor, you're gonna run your kicker or your big motor,
Right.
So
what's the thing too? So many guys, I don't know about you have more current, more waves than we do out here, really. But so many people are getting rid of their kickers. My kicker hasn't been on yet this year because if I do troll, I'm generally just trolling straight off the troll motor, right? I don't.
Yeah.
turn the kicker on if I don't have to. Our lakes are shallower here. I don't want to make all the noise. So I kind of want to be stealthy when I go in, especially this time of year. When you're in 3-4 feet of water, I'm not going to turn that kicker on. I'm going to leave it off. And some people are just getting rid of that kicker. And it's like going to these nice trolling motors, spend a little money in the battery, and you're good to go.
Yeah, because I would say 95% of my big tournament fish come out of 3 foot of water or less. Like last weekend, it was 2.5 foot. I mean, I got my trolling motor all the way up to dragging in the mud.
Wow.
So, and then Detroit, the one year, my buddy, I look back and I can see his swivel because we're using braid.
Yep.
And he's got a swivel. He's got a 2 foot leader. I can see his leader. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, it's less than 1.5 foot. He cracked a 9.5 pounder. Like he set the hook and it was already on top of the water.
Awesome.
I slid the back of the boat into shore and he cracked that fish. And I'm like, man, these big hens in these rivers. I think another thing, a lot of people fish too deep for them because they don't want to be in that deep water. If they're chasing bait, they don't want to chase it in 12 foot of water. They'll chase it in 3 foot of water.
Yeah. You got less room to chase it, right? It's easier to get to them.
So in the last couple of years, I would say I'm in minimum 5 foot or less when it's spawning or after spawning.
Yeah.
I'm in shallow.
Yeah, I will pitch shores all day long this time of year, and you're not going to catch as many, but you're going to catch bigger ones.
I jig them. We do a lot of vertical jigging, and I see a lot of guys pitching. I've had luck at it, but I like to jig those fish. And with that Garmin being so quiet and so, because it's brushless, you can't hear the blade spin. Like with Minn Kota, you can hear it on the head in the front. You can't do those new ones, but I would say a lot of guys need to focus on shallower water.
Yeah.
If they want to catch big fish.
Yeah. I think that's people, their lifetime of their old fishing memories and the fishing memories of their dad or whatever, drifting down the middle.
Yeah. It's hard to get those memories and those spots that I fished this spot with my grandpa. I got the spot on the Calcallan River. I fished with my grandpa. I got pictures of me and him hours and hours. And I'll go to that spot every day, not because it's a good spot, just because I've had so much memory.
Yeah.
And some days I get there and I'll hammer the fish and I'll be like, yeah, this is what we used to do. And other days, why are we even fishing here? I'm like, because I want to,
Right.
But
that's awesome.
So, but yeah, I think as far as the tournament world is going, I know it's been under some black eyes lately with the
What do you think about that? What do you think about all that's going on? And if it's the walleye world or the bass world seems to be imploding on itself?
I think, it's always been going on, but with this internet being so big that it's people are, and everybody's got a phone on them. There ain't nothing. Yeah. You ain't getting away with anything these days.
That's true. Yeah.
The GoPros, and I think it opens. I don't think it's any good. And then if I post a lot of stuff online, and I hear a lot of people on there going, "Oh, you bass guys or walleye guys are no good." They don't know the whole thing. They don't know the whole story about what's going on. Like the walleye world took a big hit with the weights and fish deal. I think that's so now our rules this year, they just started that. They have a separate tent. The top 3 first, second, and third place teams, they get their fish cut open as soon as they come off the scale.
Wow.
So they have a DNR there cutting these fish and checking these fish, the top 3. So I weigh my bag and I'm in 3rd place. I go from there over to the other tent and they cut those fish right open.
That's crazy.
Started, because they're giving away a ton of money at these tournaments.
Yeah.
There's 150 boats at $550 a crack, and it's 100% payout. So there's a ton of money.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Wow. There was a few guys that were upset about it. I'm not. I think it keeps everybody honest.
Right? Yeah.
We're going to harvest these fish anyways. Might as well cut them open.
Right? Yeah. What's the harm really at the end of the day? You're not doing it in front of people. You're not putting on the main stage and cutting in front of Timmy or nothing. You're taking
it back. It's in a separate tent. It's in a separate tent, and it's away from everybody. And I just think it's better that way to keep everybody honest. Because realistically, when there's money involved, people do stupid stuff. I mean, I'm the kind of guy I would never cheat because I don't want my name getting oh, Van Wormer, he's nothing but a cheater. I don't want that. I got to go to a boat launch I live for this. I'd rather take a 0 than try to cheat.
For sure. Actually, one of the first reasons why I started running a GoPro is just to have footage of me fishing today. Wasn't to make videos. It was in case if somebody called me out and be like, here's my GoPro, man. Have at it. Yeah. Go watch. Right? Go watch me spend all day in the boat.
And I take a lot of videos on the boat too because I like downloading them. I just like everybody watching my stuff.
Yeah. Right.
And when I go back and watch, and laugh, and so I make a lot of stupid videos. But I film a lot on the boat, and if I've ever been called out on something, I'll say, "Hey, I got video footage." Or like if we catch a huge bag, I'll get my phone out before we leave. We're like, "All right, this is where we're at. We caught a huge bag." I'll show the live well. I just and I don't think anybody would ever call me out because I'm an honest guy. I would never cheat because I don't want my name getting bashed anywhere.
Yeah.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fixed TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fixed TV. And when you're done with that, and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
Because I gotta go to sleep at night and fish the next day. And the last thing I want is somebody online saying, "Oh, Van Wormer's nothing but a cheater, and I seen him do this," or, I don't want that,
Especially if you're, like you are, grow up fishing, all you ever want to do is fish, right?
Yeah.
So I can imagine the two guys that put the weights in the fish and the rest of their life. I mean, yeah, the average person isn't going to know who they are, but I will. And I've never met
everybody.
The guy.
Yes. I don't think you can go to
states where I know who he is. Right?
I mean, everybody knows that face.
Yep.
I was at work that day when that happened. My buddy was down there at fishing that tournament, and he sent me footage on his phone from his phone, and I'm like, what in the – I mean, it was just unbelievable. And, that really hurt the walleye community for as far as online, but as far as that's two guys. It ain't, all of us,
Yeah, it's two people.
Yeah, it's two people. It's two people that, in my opinion, didn't care anything about fishing.
No.
They didn't care about the sport. They didn't care. It was money driven is all I think it was.
Yeah, money and clout, I think. About it.
Yeah, and if I'm going to tell you right now, it'd be like shooting a big buck, finding a buck on the side of the road and getting it mounted. You didn't harvest that deer.
Yeah.
So to me, none of that matters. If I can't do it fair and square, at the end of the day, it don't matter. In my opinion, I like to know I did everything right and I caught those fish.
Right, I'm with you there.
So
I'll get you out of here. And the last question: if you only could go fishing one more time, where would you go and who would you take?
That's a good question. I'd probably go on the bay, Saginaw Bay, because I grew up there fishing, and if I could only go one time, I would take my wife, because that would be it, one time.
Right.
There'd be a lot of people I'd want to take, but realistically, I'd take her just because we've been together I've been married 22 years. We got married real young and we were in 4-H together. she's my fishing partner,
Awesome.
She's not one of the boys, but she can be, she's a fishing partner.
Right.
Because it's just different when you got your boys on the boat versus your wife. It's different, but I would take, if that's all I'm allowed to take, I would take her.
Awesome. So one last question. Have you thought about doing any other tournaments? MWC, NWT, and that stuff? Have you thought about those? Aims?
I do all the time. Like, there's the National Walleye Tournament circuit coming to Alpena.
Yep.
And I think I'm no John Hoyer, I'm none of those guys, but I like Alpena, and I did really good there. The times I've fished it, I know enough about. I'm really thinking about trying that tournament, and I don't know if I'd want to be a co, because I think they're now the way this forward-facing sonar, the co partner is not really. He's not that productive. And some of the deals I've watched, I mean, it's just so. I think I would sign up as a pro, because I have my own boat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think I would be competitive to fish one of those tournaments. I really want to fish one of those big national walleye tournaments. I really do.
I would suggest you do it. When they came to Winnebago, I did it here, and I am glad I did it. I had a friend that backed out. He decided not to do it. I'm like, dude, and he regrets it every day. I didn't win. I think I was number 51. So out of 100 boats, I'm like, hey, I'm pretty excited about that. And the worst part is a bite that I thought that I had ready to go didn't go. And the next week I won a tournament the next week with that same bite. I just couldn't get it to work.
Yeah.
So I had fish, and what's really weird to me, which kind of pushed my limits, is that I did things that I never thought I would do on a system I grew up on. Yeah. I was fishing places because like you said before, when you're behind and you're not catching fish, your brain's working differently, right? And during that tournament that week, I saw everybody fishing all the local spots and kind of knew that's where everybody's going to be. But then I was like, hey, Matt, what have you've been driving over this spot for years and it looks like this. You should stop it. Things that it pushed me outside of my comfort level to try to find something else, and that really improved my fishing locally, at least.
Yeah. That one quick thing, 90% of these tournaments that I fish in are won within 5 miles of the launch. They are won within 5 miles.
Crazy.
Yeah, and we're doing 50, 60-mile runs, and a lot of these tournaments, a lot of these local tournaments, and these Michigan Walleye Tour tournaments are won within 5 miles of the launch.
Wow.
And we're driving over fish to go find fish.
Yep.
So I do want to do one of those National Walleye Tour tournaments just one time on my local water, obviously, because I have a little bit of knowledge. But they're coming. They come every few years to Michigan, and they're coming to Alpena, and I really want to do it, but I don't know. I'm just, like you said, I'm hesitant, and we got this new cabin now, and I want to spend time up here on these lakes with my wife, and I want to do, so I'm not fishing every one of them this year like I normally do. I'm laying off a little bit, but I'm still fishing a bunch of them. But we're spending a lot of time up here, in Indian River. That's cool. It's beautiful up here, and the lake. So there is a championship coming up here this year on Mullet, which is right across the road. I will be in. So me and her entered that tour. It's the Northern Lakes Walleye Tour.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that. But
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on. It was awesome to talk to you.
Yeah.
I've been watching your stuff for a while. I see all the cool videos and your passion for fishing. And then when I read I think it's your Instagram bio, it said, if we can't talk fish, we're not friends. I'm like, okay, I gotta get this guy on the phone.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we're all people, and I like talking to people. I've learned a lot of stuff by talking to different people.
Right.
Nobody's too good or not good enough for me. I don't care what you got. If you don't even have a boat and you fish, or I'll talk. I don't care.
Right.
So I think it needs more people need to open their eyes and not just because they have $100 and some $1,000 boat, we're no better than anybody else. We just have the boat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we go to the dock and somebody will say, "Oh, you must have hammered them today." I caught 0, dude. How many did you catch?
Right.
You know what I mean? There ain't nothing between me and you or different. We just have different,
Yeah.
There really isn't. So, in my opinion, I just think at the end of the day, fishermen need to stick together.
For sure. Yeah.
No matter what.
Out.
You know what I mean? We're all doing the same thing. Just some of us have a different opportunity. But
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on. And if you're looking to be on an episode of Walleye Chronicles, hit me up on my socials at Matt Snell on Instagram or Facebook, and TikTok at Smile and Fish. And remember, there's 2 things you can do every day to make someone's life better. 1, take them fishing, and 2, give them a smile. Thanks a lot.
Exactly.